You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. Time to kick off another broadcast week here on the Options Insider Radio Network. We will keep your ear holes full throughout the week with options-oriented content. That is our pledge to you. My name is Mark Longo from the aforementioned network, as well as, of course, on the ever-exciting theoptionsinsider.com. Glad to see so many of you have been jumping on board. Some of you right before the showtime. I see you out there joining us on the old Pro and Plus side. Glad to see so many of you out there. I'd name you all, but I know some of you like your privacy, so I'll just keep you secret. But we love you all out there. If you're curious what's going on over there, all the cool stuff popping off. Got a hot new Pro Q&A coming up tomorrow with the once and future Dr. Vic. Seemed like a good time to dive into all things volatility. He's a good one to do that with. And of course, on Friday, we got Options Oddities. We had the Rock Lobster on with us last week. It was really fun. So if you're missing all that, theoptionsinsider.com/plus or /pro, both of you will get you to more information about what's going on there. You can choose what works best for you. If you like to just sit back at home and consume your stuff on demand, you don't need extra options content in your life, well, then we got you covered with the regular old stuff hitting you pretty much multiple times a day as well. So however you like to get your content, however much you like, and if you like it immediate, of course, all of our Plus and Pro people can join us live there as well. So if you like it immediately in your ear holes, we got you covered there. However you like to consume your options-oriented content, we have got you covered here, so check it out over there. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro, easy for me to say, /pro or /plus is the way to kick off your journey, just like so many of you have done already. And speaking of kicking off our journeys, it is time to kick off our broadcast week. You know how we do that here on the old OB. It is time for our Guess That 80s Wrestlers entrance music. And I will say this is just kind of, I know I've said it before, I'll have to say it again due to many of your inquiries, but as they're queuing up the music for us here, I will just remind you that we may be cute. We know we're sexy, but we're not your options boy toys.
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the looks that drives a girl wild. I've got the move that really move 'em. I say chill up and down their spine. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy.
I wish I could see his face because I know the Rock Lobster's head is just exploding with what the heck was that? Yes, that was our 80s wrestler entrance music for the week. Do you know who that is? Let's see if you can play along. First, since he got it last week, somehow, I guess because they said the name in the music, he was able to get it last week. He gets to go first. Yes, we are joined once again by the 80s wrestling fan extraordinaire, none other than the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, A, welcome back to the show. And B, most importantly, can you name that 80s wrestler, sir?
Okay, I'm in my head. I have two wrestlers. Somehow I'm calling their names: Randy Savage or Ric Flair, I think.
Wow,
I don't think it's a Randy Savage. I'm going to go with Ric Flair.
Those are both actually 80s wrestlers, so you get points for that. You do know two. That's impressive. Unfortunately, neither of them are sexy boys, but that music just cracks me up whenever I hear it. So you get points for being within the genre, sir, but perhaps not the right. But hey, you got the $1 Million Man last week. I mean, just coast on that for a while. That's a pretty good one. It's a pretty deep cut for a guy like you, sir. So I was impressed, even though we did set it up so that he said the name for you, so we could ease you in. All right. I know TOSAW is over there. He's champing at the bit. You know he knows this one. Of course, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. A, welcome back to the program. And B, are you a sexy boy, sir?
I am not. So, I got to say, I have a lot of respect and admiration for every wrestler that you've put on thus far, but this is the first one that I really didn't like that much. So it is Shawn Michaels, and can't say I was a fan of Shawn Michaels. I think that, don't get me wrong, he played his role, he did what he could do, but not a Shawn Michaels fan. I mean, he's okay. I respect what he did, but no, can't say I'm a Shawn Michaels fan. He's one of those guys that you just annoyed me, quite honestly. So I guess that he did his job.
I'll say that was his gimmick, right? He was a heel for a lot of his. Even though I think this guy kind of lived his gimmick for quite a while out there. But yes, you're right. It was the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels out there. You see him today, you're like, really? Are you a sexy boy? But it's hard to imagine the old days of the flowing locks and all the other stuff like that. But yes, that was. Looks like our listeners, our pro members got it as well, including our newest pro member, Mr. Unlimited out there. He chimed in the chat saying some sweet chin music. So yes, he knows. He knows what we're talking about. That, of course, his finishing move, the super kick, which now everybody does. It's kind of like the DDT. It's just become standard nomenclature. Oh, by the way, before we keep rolling off of wrestling, really quick, Mr. Uncle Mike, we had Ted DiBiase's music on the show last week, right, Uncle Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this weekend I'm walking past the living room. My son's watching a wrestling pay-per-view. Guess whose music I hear hit right as I walk by?
No way.
Yes.
DiBiase's
yes.
back?
Yes. The $1 Million. I hear the laughing and I hear money, but just exactly what we played last week. Ted DiBiase was back. I guess there were two guys doing like a money-oriented gimmick, and he was there with the $1 Million belt to decide who was the winner and be the arbiter of who was the best. So there you go. We invoked him by playing him on the show last week, Mike.
I think that just proves, Vince McMahon, you're a listener, and we are honored to have you as a listener, Mr. McMahon.
You know, he heard that show, and he's like, you know what? I think it is time to bring back the old Ted DiBiase. So there we go. We have some power on the show. Maybe Shawn Michaels will make of course, he has been around, I think, a little bit of late, but maybe he'll make a return appearance for some sweet chin music as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, let's get into it. The market's getting some sweet chin music on the old chin today. It kind of depends where you're looking. It's coming into showtime. We are seeing a relatively rare color in the S&P, which is red. Most of the major indices are off. S&P is off about 1/3%. Dow is feeling a lot more red, off about 0.75%. NASDAQ's kind of shrugging off all that noise and saying, nah, not for me. I'm going to go the other direction, up about 0.4 point. But all this kind of mixed noise on the screen to kick things off, kind of getting the vol products a little bit twitchy, a little bit nervous out there. Of course, they're getting some of their weekend back as well. They kind of, a little bit of that weird dance they always do in the early part of Monday's session. So a bit of a combo, giving a little bit of lift across the board to the vol space. VIX kicking off the show was right around a 17 even. That puts it up about 0.5 point from our last show. VVIX at 117.5. That's pretty much unched from our last show. And VXX was at 31.5. Let's see Where did it go out right before we kicked off the show? There was, pretty much around 31.5. So that's pretty much down about 3/4 or so of a point. We'll see if we can get back up to that, a little bit lower into the mid-30s again. It was threatening the 30 handle not too long ago, having lost nigh on a quarter of its value in just a few weeks after reverse splitting, listeners. So some impressive downside on the books for VXX of late. And of course, Vol Q, aka the at the money vol of the NASDAQ 100. That's about a 16.5. So we got a 16 handle cooking out there in NASDAQ. It's down about 3/4 or so, about a point or so from where it was this time last show. So a lot to unpack. Uncle Mike, you are our reigning sexy boy here on the show today. That's not going to get old at all. What's lighting up your tape out there in a not really Uncle Mike kind of market, sir?
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, that coin thing that you just take a bit of, what's it called? A Bitcoin. That's really what's lighting it up, it looks like right now. And that I guess you can use Bitcoin to buy Teslas again, or you might be soon. So I guess Elon Musk is okay with whatever he was upset about before.
Yeah, so, what is this nonsense when Bitcoin allows 50% of miners to use clean energy? How are you going to measure? These are the kind of nonsensical things he throws out there that clearly have market moving impact and ramifications as a result, but have no tangible meaning to them outside of that. There's no way to measure that. This is the kind of thing that I think frustrates a lot of people in the crypto space. I'm just putting that out.
It frustrates me, and I'm not even in the crypto space. But I think it's just Elon Musk just kind of hanging out and saying, "Hey guys, watch this." Then it puts out a tweet, and then all of a sudden, "Hey guys, go buy some Bitcoin real quick." Okay, you guys bought all your Bitcoin. Okay, then he puts out another tweet, makes it go up, and then he just kind of laughs about it. That's what it feels like right now, and with what he's doing with it. But who am I to judge Elon Musk? But we're seeing that, and I think that's really the biggest mover of all the macro assets that I watch. And silver's flat on the day. Bonds are selling off a little bit today, but I think it's just kind of some profit taking, and that we're still 1.5 is kind of the area with which the 10-year seems to want to be right now. So we're not getting a lot of movement from it. And what's concerning me about the S&P right now is that we're not getting large moves up. We're just getting these tiny little moves up. We had the all-time highs on Thursday, but for right now, it's like we've just been magnetized, and the magnet's getting a little bit weaker, it appears, but we seem magnetized to that 4,200 mark in the S&P. Now, I know we were at 43, closer to the 43.5 recently, but it just seems like we can't get away from it, and we've been here for quite a while now. So I'd like to see the market do something already, but for right now, that's where we are. The VIX got a little bit of a bid going on it today around the 17 handle. So excited to hear Andrew's take on that. Don't want to steal his thunder in a little bit. So we do have that happening. But for right now, the way with which I'm looking at this market is that I'm just long some out of the money butterflies right now. So in case we do get a rally, I'll participate on it. But I'd like to see a 1 to 2% pullback within a week before I start selling some put spreads or anything along those lines. Now, don't get me wrong, we're still selling puts and writing covered calls in our triple income portfolio. We still have our long stocks with which we're in and for our long-term investors. But for right now in the aggressive portfolio, I don't feel comfortable writing a put spread at this point in time. I'd like to see a little bit more of a pullback. But what's frustrating about it is that I've been saying this for about a month now, and I've been missing out on some beloved time decay premium, but I can't justify the risk at this point. So for now, we'll just stay long and mitigate the long premium risk as best we can.
All right, let's roll on out now to the dark and stormy shores of Maine, where we are joined once again by a guy who's always collecting theta. He's always dark side. He is the Rock Lobster himself from his palatial and foreboding fortress on the shores of Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, you sexy boy, you. Welcome back to the program. And what is lighting up your tape on this beginning of the week where it seems like Vol could maybe, dare I say it, potentially catch a bid?
I'm still trying to get over that theme music from wrestling. So is that what they play when the guy walks down?
Yes, that's what they played. He was just a sexy boy, but he wasn't your boy toy.
Heartbreak Kid.
I'll tell you, I have to say, doing this show, you learn something every week. Just there's no hiding that fact.
And you see him today, you're like, really? He's bald. He looks a pale shadow of his. Wrestling's a hard life. Let me just put it that way.
I guess so. And also probably the after parties on wrestling is probably pretty hard too.
But I will say this for Shawn Michaels, he did get his life together, and so he's at least trying to get himself together. So I will give the guy credit for that. But I try and judge people solely on their wrestling ability, and I'm a pretty strict, harsh critic, and as a wrestler, he was. I feel he was overrated. That was my opinion of him. But as a man, the guy is trying to get his life together, and I do think the guy deserves credit for that. That's more than a lot of those guys can say.
So I will say this, Uncle Mike. So it's fair to say in the ongoing Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels debate, you fall on the Bret Hart side.
Bret was, I mean, as a wrestler, no question, Bret Hart's a better wrestler with the sharpshooter. I'll take the sharpshooter over sweet chin music any day. I mean, I don't know how anyone could argue with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Pink and black attack all the way. But I digress, Mr. Rock Lobster. We've sucked you down another scary rabbit hole. You're just like, what are you talking about? So why don't you take us into the world of VIX? What is catching your eye out there? As like I said before, and I say it again, maybe if I say it twice, it shall come to pass. Potentially, Vol may be catching a bid.
You know what? I'm looking today. So for a brief moment in time, the VIX. The June 23 calls at a nickel bid. They're all gone now. Although almost all puts in the vol complex are cheaper than they were Friday. So I look at a kind of collection of puts and goodies and stuff like that. So Friday was a great day. I sold a ton, got rid of a ton of stuff, which is always happy. We don't have that single digit vol president anymore, unfortunately. So you have to temper your expectations. Like puts you used to be able to sell for $10. You're now happy to get $2.50 or $3, and you're quite thrilled with it now. Yes. So yeah, we do have this a bit of a. So here's the thing that I would say, like TOSAW's, like his let's say his spidey senses are bothering him that he thinks he should be selling some. He wants to sell some SPX put spreads, but he can't really quite justify it because he's not getting the price action that he wants. And I think on a day like today, so money is just flowing into tech, right? Tech and biotech, from what I can see on my screen, pretty solid, right? Really, really solid all the way across the board. But the SPY is not doing anything. Like commodities are kind of down. Oils, like banks, don't look like they're doing very much here either. So what is it like your vanilla rotation day kind of? It feels like. But again, but VIX. So a day like today, I would expect the bid for VIX. You have the weekend effect bidding it up, and then like vol should kind of slowly sort of peter out during the day, and we're not getting that. We kind of started with a bid for VIX this morning, and it hasn't gone away. And it's kind of, I would say, it's not as pronounced as it was this morning, but it's still there. So, I guess long story short is we'll see if this continues. But the bid for VIX is like you're not really getting that supporting move from the S&P 500. So we'll take it's not as bullish as I would like it to be, considering where the market is and all that kind of stuff. Now maybe it's just a bunch of money going back to Bitcoin. Everybody ran out of commodities today and into Bitcoin. That's certainly possible. But I would say the bid for VIX is curious on a day when vol would basically start to reset after the weekend effect, and you would start to see maybe a little bit of VIX going down. It's not, which I find curious. So just everybody can take that how they think, but It's the first step in a curious bid for VIX, we'll call it. For a curious bid for VIX.
It is indeed a curious bid for VIX. We'll see if it's a real bid or if it's kind of just some of that early Monday weekend noise. And once we see, the markets pick a direction today and we see, it looks like maybe some of the sell-off may be mitigating already. We'll see by the end of the show if this bid is real or if it's kind of just like, we see a lot on the early parts of the sessions here. Let's see what we're seeing from an overall vol perspective. If this is materializing into any real appreciable numbers here on the screen. VIX actually doing some paper, almost at exactly half of its ADV, which is continuing to tick up, if ever so slightly, up to 610,000 contracts right now. So managing to sustain its momentum north of the 600K strike. And right now, about 302,000 contracts on the tape. So it's on track to at least probably hit that today. We'll see if it can get there. SPY, similar levels, closing in on 2 million. About 1.85 million. The ADV out there has actually ticked down a little bit. It's been north of 4 million for quite some time, at about 3.91 million right now. So SPY getting a little bit lighter. The S, 809,000. The S kind of going the other way. The S getting more robust. Usually it's around 700, maybe 50,000 right now. So that's decent paper for the S. The ADV has been kind of locked at 1.25 million for a while out there. So the S looking pretty firm today. The Q's at about half of its ADV as well, 616,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV about 1.25 million. So the Q's can do some paper. And so far, at least right now, they're on board for about half of it. And the small caps, at least through the IWM lens, is about 302,000 contracts. The ADV right around 550 out there. But I know what you're all waiting to hear. You're all waiting to hear the mad breakdown that is the top 10 most active single names out there. This is kind of where all the action, all the noise, all the madness in the market of late has been kind of fixated on this. Can the crazy meme kids once again topple the titans, the juggernauts, the leviathans that are Apple and Tesla, at least from an options volume perspective? Well, let's find out together, shall we? Number 10 cost you 226,000 contracts to break into the top 10 most active today. That's a pretty decent clip. And B, that gets you all the way out to my old stomping grounds of Intel, good old INTC making it back on the top 10 today. By the way, they're also looking pretty call biased. Let's pull up, see what's going on in Intel, because they're probably gonna win our biased award today for 91% of that paper coming on the call side of the ledger. That's the most biased paper we've seen on the top 10 in a while here. Actually, the stock's down a little bit today, so not a huge upside move for Intel, but something driving some action out there in Intel today, maybe getting some of that meme kid love. I don't know what's driving all this paper out there, but a lot of call paper in Intel. Number 9, back out to the meme kids. It's Riot, 229,000. This is kind of half meme, half crypto, obviously, so it kind of hits both worlds. Good for 229,000 contracts, only 77% of that in the call side. So that would usually maybe be enough for number 1, but not today. Intel taking that roost. Number 8, yeah, it's Clover. The old CLOV, the newest addition to the meme stock bonanza. 248,000. So number 8, right around 250,000 contracts. And 74% of that coming on the call side of the ledger. Number 7, it's Palantir. It's always lurking up there these days. 283,000 contracts. And a pretty robust 81% of that coming on the call side. So once again, in the top 10, it's still all calls all the time. Number 6, it's kind of the newest addition to the meme pantheon out there. It's the formerly sleepy name, now known as Ford. Ford, good for 289,000. Back below the 15 handle, listeners, down about a third of a point, or about 2.5% today, right around a 1490 or so. And so, yeah, all those folks who we were just talking about it on the the Options Oddities show with the Rock Lobster on Friday, people couldn't get enough of upside and Ford. We talked June, I think 17 halves, 18s and 19s, and all the way out to August for 30,000 of the AUG 20s. People could not get enough of these, at least so far right now. Those are looking like a little bit of a bridge too far, and a lot of them have already, we talked about the 20s that already lost some of their value just by the time we had talked about them, and those other ones that were June. Those are looking pretty rough right now. It's those June 18s. Remember we talked about them on the show, listeners? We said we probably would have rather sold those for 20 cents rather than buy them. Well, that certainly appears to have been the better side of that trade right now. But Ford right now, 289,000. I put it out to you. You guys be the arbiter. Is Ford a meme name now? I don't know. It kind of does fit a lot of the criteria out there. Number 5, newcomer to our top 5. Most active doesn't even do this justice. Maybe we should call it topsy-turvy, crazy town, whatever this list is. It's something. It's Wish. This is a newcomer to our top 10 here. This is ticker symbol Wish, WISH. This is actually an online e-commerce platform for a company called Context Logic. And this one apparently getting all of the meme juice over there on the Reddit forums these days. It's good for an impressive 376,000 contracts. That's a lot of paper for a name I've never heard of before today. So that's a way to make an entrance here on our top 10. By the way, that would have been our probably winner for most biased paper. It's 87% of that coming on the call side of the ledger. Let's just look back really quickly in the year that's been for Wish. By the way, Wish a year ago was trading $20. So it's not quite the story I thought of when I hit this chart, that it would be 28 cents a year ago and now up to $11.36 where it finds itself right now. No, it's the other way. It's $20, got up to $32.85 and has since shed pretty much all of that. It was trading $7.76 about a week ago, so it has had a nice pop since then. Obviously, that's when the meme kids discovered it, but still. Interesting road here for Wish. You slinging Wish? Let us know. 87% of that paper come on the call side of the ledger. Number 4, it's Neo. They're still lurking in the top 10 there. 448,000 contracts, 78% of that coming on the call side. Number 3. So I guess the answer to our question is maybe. Number 3 is Tesla. 536,000 contracts. Only 67% of that coming on the call side of the ledger out there. So Tesla, obviously making headlines for a lot of things these days. Rallying, and I put rallying in air quotes today. It's only up a couple of points, so that's a rounding error in Tesla. But it is back north of the 600 level, 612 coming into today's show there. 67% of that on the call side. Number 3, it means it got toppled by somebody, and it got toppled by number 2, AMC. So it couldn't quite make the number 1 spot today. AMC, 1.09 million. And actually, only 66% of that on the call side. People have this impression of AMC that it's 99% calls. That is not the case. It's right now 2/3 calls and 1/3 puts out there. So bear that in mind when you're looking for all these juicy verticals out there. They line up sometimes when they do these crazy, June 4th, 1:45 calls with 2 hours to go. But a lot of other times there's two-sided paper going on out there. So bear that in mind in AMC. And number 1, that means the big dog is back. The king has retained its crown. He kicked these other kids to the curb. He said, if you come for the king, you best not miss, because I'll take my throne back and I'll kick you all the way back down here. Yes, it's Apple. About 1.2 million contracts out here, 76% on the call side. So Apple, after a bit of a rest, a bit of a reprieve, is back now. Maybe it was usurped briefly, but today he has taken back the crown. Let's see what else is lighting it up out there from an earnings perspective. Not a ton on the block this week. Oracle, as I just mentioned, gave you a bit of a sneak preview there, as well as H&R Block and Lazy Boy on Tuesday. Not a sexy boy, but a lazy boy. Wednesday we have Lennar, and Thursday we have Kroger. So kind of getting into the lighter part of the remainder of the season. Peaking of the season right now, we're averaging 74%. So it has ticked up ever so slightly. It was 72% not too long ago. But last week was still pretty anemic. 62% was the rate for last week. The worst week of this season so far was week 2 with 51%. That means if you bought a nice basket of earnings vol, you got back pretty much 50 cents on the dollar. So that's pretty rough. This season as a whole, you got back 74 cents. We have yet to see a season since the pandemic began where we actually got back more money. We actually made money on that trade. When that happens, perhaps that will be the canary in the coal mine, the sign that the worm has turned out there. But so far, this season, I hate to break it to you listeners, not the case. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go. Options, news, and articles tab. You can get all that action in your hot little hand, just like this. The reports right now for Oracle. They are popping off tomorrow after the bell. They were at $82, almost $83. They were pricing in $358. In the past, they've moved $409. So they got the memo out there in Oracle land that less vol is more these days. And Kroger's go out to them as well, $38.71. They were pricing in $1.84. In the past, they've moved, get this, $1.85. So they got the memo precisely out there. Maybe they could take that off a little bit, but they're pretty much lining up exactly out there. Let's go to Lennar really quickly, too. They're on the 16th after the bell. 92 3/4 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $414. Get this, listeners. In the past, they've moved $416. So, market makers are not fools. They've gotten the memo. If they didn't get it the first few cycles of these earnings season during the pandemic. They've had it beaten into their heads a number of times now. You price in more vol at your peril in these names. So then these ones are actually going in precisely with the past move, which is kind of interesting. Let's look really quick. Looks like we got Adobe here as well. So let's go out to them really quickly as well. They're on Friday after the bell. 541 and a quarter. So I guess the death of Flash hasn't hurt them too much. They were at $20.73, what they were pricing in. In the past, they've moved $25.30. So apparently they've gotten the memo out in Adobe as well. Less is more. But you know where more is more? It's the odd block. So let's get to it.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we unleash the Eye of Sauron. And like I said, more is more, especially today. Got some decent-sized blocks coming across the radar of our Eye of Sauron. First, we're going out to a name we haven't talked about in a while. This is BJ's Wholesale Club. You know, this Costco's all over the place here in Chicago. I can't remember the last time I saw a BJ's. So is there a BJ's near you? I don't know. Apparently, they're still around, but I never really see them, at least not in this area. Maybe they're in your neck of the woods. BJ's right now, ticker symbol appropriately enough, BJ. Trading right now just a little bit shy of $48, $47.90, up about $14 over the course of the past year. So a good run for them over the past year, and about a quarter of a buck, or about 0.5% today. So as we said, a year ago it was trading a wee bit shy of where it is right now. It's about 48 right now. It was 33.87 a year ago. Then it had a nice little run up into late August. It traded up to about 47, so about close to where it is right now in late August. And then it kind of gave it all right back. By September 17th, it was trading $39 again, and it kind of stayed in that range. Had a few other runs, popped up to 44.5 on November 19th, and sold off again to 37.11. So maybe some of the lingering concerns over, pandemic and food supply issues and everything else over the course of the last year impacted this. We see this is a pretty volatile chart for effectively a wholesale grocery chain. Then they rallied again, got up to, looks like it's pretty much its 52-week high in late January, 27th, right around $49, $48.81. And then, like clockwork, it gave it up again. Within a couple of sessions, it was trading 42. Within a few weeks, it was trading 38 again. So kind of gave it up, then it rallied right back up. This is a volatile wholesale club. Almost trading 47 again on April 5th. Sold off again, 43, then back up again to about 48.5 again on May 19th. Gave it up again to about 44 a couple weeks later. And it's kind of been doing this dance a few times. It's clearly we're on the apex of that again, threatening that 48 level again over the course of the past few weeks. So let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out here. Mr. Rock Lobster, you're like this one. Looks like your old friend, the line in the sand, put for some size, if not for some juice. It was 16,000 of the BJ's July 40 puts. So about $8 out of the money and a little bit more than a month and change to go, listeners. Going up, these puts were a dime at 20 cents. So not an unreasonable market for BJ's out of the money puts. They went up for 11 cents right off the bid. So crushed that bid, got a little extra juice for them, but not much. If you're wondering, that is a 40 vol, pretty much even. So you can argue that's high, but maybe given this chart, it's probably warranted out there. The stock, by the way, was 47.75 when these puts went up. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, I know you like this strategy. I know you like, this is pretty sizable one of it, but I know you also take a bit of a dim view of blasting out a bunch of puts for 11 cents. So where do you fall on this one? Are you kind of mixed? Are you angry? Are you loving it? What's your spidey sense telling you, sir?
Again, you're right. I liked it. I'd prefer to see a little more bucks coming in on this one. Are we at our Ferrari? But as usual, Ferrari money, somebody, I'm looking at 16,000 contracts at 11 cents. I think you're about there.
Probably a low end, like entry level Ferrari. You probably get that for like $1.75 or so.
Used one.
I don't think
the old Tom Selleck.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you're getting a nice new Ferrari for $1.75 these days.
No, I don't think so either. So, like the old Tom Selleck Ferraris, Magnum PI, I think. Yeah, again, use of capital. Maybe if somebody's giving you your money for nothing, but kind of a low return until July. But who can argue with the success of the line in the sand put? But usually, I don't know if this is a wildly bullish. I don't think the line of the sand is really a wildly bullish trade. It's just that things aren't going to be disastrous. So as I look at BJ's wholesale club, 40. What's interesting, 40 is a tickle. I think 40 is a tickleable number, considering where BJ's has spent most of its life in the 25 handle until COVID showed up, and then it became kind of a superstar. So I would just go out. I would say this is an interesting one. Now the earnings have just blown up huge. So again, very, very interesting. I would say this is a little more bold than the ones we've seen in the past.
And you're not tying up a small amount of capital here. This is 1.6 million shares on a stock below $40. So you're tying up some capital. I mean, you might look at this and say, I'm getting $1.75 or so to do this, but that's pretty much covering the cost of your capital allocation. So when you see this, it's not just someone going for $1.75. They are committing capital to do this out here. So you're right. You hope you get a little bit more than this. But, the 40 handle, we said this is a pretty volatile stock. It has kissed that level multiple times over the last 6 months. So it is possible this one could be kissed again. So guess what, listeners? That means we're going to come back to this one, see how our friend fared. Did he keep all of that, as the Rock Lobster says, inappropriately girlfriend's Ferrari's money? Send your hate mail to him, not me. Or did we have something, maybe a used Ferrari? Or is there something else cooking out there? As we go on out to another name, this is a newcomer to the odd block. This is Leslie's Inc. This is kind of a newbie day here today. This is a swimming pool supply company. I don't have a pool, so I guess that's probably why I never heard of this name. A ticker symbol LESL, L-E-S-L. Let's just call it Leslie. Trading right now about $27.50, up about nearly $6 over the course of the past year, and about 35 cents or about 1.25% today. Let's look really quickly. A year ago, it was trading $21.70. Kind of sold off a bit to about 19 and change in December. Then it kind of rallied up to 28. So north of where it is right now in December. It's another one that kind of had a tumultuous year. Who'd have thunk it? Pool retail was a crazy year for them. But 28 and change, that was in December, right around Christmas. Then it sold off 25 in January, back up to, looks like the high of the year, around 31.34 on January 20. Actually, 32.84 was the high of the year on January 27th. Another name that kind of peaked on January 27th. Maybe that's the new June 8th of the year. We'll see. Then it promptly sold off again down to about $20. Almost broke the 20 handle, 20.93. Then it kind of rallied again by April. It was trading nearly $30 again. So it had quite the run there. It sold off in March, rallied again in April, sold off again in May down to 26, back up to 31.25 a week ago on June 7th, and then promptly selling off again to where it is right now, right around 27 and change. So extremely volatile pool retailer. They sell swimming pool supplies and related products. Who knew? Pool chemicals and floaties was such a volatile space to be in. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. You'd learn something new every day, Mr. Rock Lobster. You learned about Sexy Boy today. I learned about the volatility of floaties. As we head on into, let's see, our Eye of Sauron found 12,000, so another pretty decently sized block here of the Leslie July 22 half put, so almost exactly $5 out of the money. It's almost the same trade. Maybe it's the same guy, Mr. Rock Lobster. These went up. They were a dime at 25 cents, so a little bit wider for Leslie. These went up for 14 cents. He got a little bit more juice. He got a little bit more price improvement on these. That's, if you're wondering, listeners, a 46 vol. So a little bit more juice, a little bit more premium, a little bit more vol for this guy. Doing similar size, the stock was a little bit shy at 27, 26.92, and he put these up. So a little bit south of where it is right now. That probably accounts for the little bit better bit of juice he got. So kind of a similar trade, Mr. Rock Lobster. Same term, similar distance out of them. Actually, exactly. They're both 16% out of the money. So, hey, maybe it's the same guy. He really wanted to blast away, draw some lines in the sand on BJ's and Leslie's pool retail. Do you have a pool? Are you familiar with Leslie's, Mr. Rock Lobster?
I'm not, but they do own several brands like Jacuzzi and Zodiac and Waterway.
Oh, they own Jacuzzi. Okay, well, there you go.
So they're, and I'm sure they just do. I mean, they make all the stuff for swimming pools. Like post-COVID, I've heard of like Leslie's, like it's kind of like a pool emporium type place. There might even be one in Maine, possibly. So, and I think this is a relatively new IPO, to be honest. I've not seen a lot of earnings history on it and stuff like that. So, interesting. But again, looking like line in the sand, looking for a bargain in this one. That is, what is that, 0.5% till July, not a full percentage. So, again, it's very, very similar MO here, similar dollar take. Lots of similarities to the BJ trade. So on a slow day, they're not looking at this is another trading thing, like I see stocks that I want to own, but they're just not anywhere at prices that I want to pay or for options. So you sell puts at levels that you want to take them. You just have to make sure that you really want them. So I'm assuming Mr. 12,000 lot wants to own some pool supply at $22.50. So it straight up looks like the trade. That's how that trade looks.
That does. So we'll come back to both of these. We'll come back to these line in the sand put bros a little bit later on to see how they fared, if they kept their, 14 and 11 cents respectively. Let's flip the script now. We want someone looking for a little bit of explosive action to round us out here. So we're going to go out to another newcomer. This is ALLT Limited, ALLOT. So ALLT, literally. This is formerly ALLT Communications. This is an Israeli telecom. A ticker symbol ALLT. Trading right now, $20.61. Nice day today, up about 1.25, 130, so 6.6% today. So nice little pop for ALLT. That's a lot of pop for ALLT. A year ago, trading 10.25, so it's pretty much doubled over the course of the past year. And they were kind of sleepy for most of the year, still trading 10.5 in December, so not much in the latter half of last year. Then they kind of kicked it into high gear on January 5th. They went from $10.50 to the next session by January 8th, was trading $14.39. So they exploded over the course of that 3 days. And then by February 9th, we're trading 17. So they had not quite doubled, but about 75% rally from mid-January to mid-February. Then they kind of bounced around in that range. By April 8th, they hit nearly $20, $19.36. That was actually pretty much their high for the year. Then they sold off down to $16.05 on May 12th. And right now, as of today, they pretty much blew through that old high, getting up to where they are right now, $20.61. So we're pretty much at their 52-week high here, listeners. A nice little pop here for ALLT. I'll have to look and see if this is Mimi love or earnings, maybe a combination of all of the above. But either way, we're going to the call side of the ledger this time, listeners. No sleepy line in the sand puts this time. We're swinging for some fences, looking for some pop. We got a 5,000 lot of the SEP, so a little bit farther out this time. SEP 22 half calls, so about $2 out of the money, going up for $1.45, pretty much lifting the offer. Like I said, about 5,000 times over there on the Philly. The stock was a little bit lower, 2017, when these bad boys went up. By the way, there are earnings between now and this options expiration. They are on August 3rd, so perhaps accounting for a little bit of that juice. It's about a 56.5 vol that they paid for these bad boys. Mr. Rock Lobster, we got a different side of the coin. We're swinging for some aggressive fences. They got a little bit of time to work. It's not like the people in Ford who are all lining up for June out of the money calls and are going to see their money go the way of the dodo. This guy's paying a little more, but he's getting a little bit more time. What do you say here on these SEP 22 halves? That's about $1 and change above the 52-week high. What do you think our friend's up to here? You think he's got a chance of making that bridge, or is it, dare I say, a bridge too far in ALLT? It's a lot of premium, by the way.
Well, it's saying here ALLT is a global provider of security and monetization solutions. I thought when I saw monetization, it might be a blockchain thing or something like that. But it has sales. It seems to be like a security is kind of buzzwordy right now with, and I actually have some anecdotal evidence of some of my students and whatnot, or businesses that have actually been ransomware, like they got the note, the ransomware note. So again, a growing for sure, growing field. Like people are going to start spending on this stuff. I think if it's in the security world, that I think so. 22.5, I think, is a reasonable price to pay for these options in September. I don't know if Mr. TOSAW would agree, but I think it certainly has potential. And somebody's looking for a lot more upside on this one, but the volatility is relatively low. So you're getting good bang for your buck. But yeah, they're definitely looking for a breakout and a move. A move to new highs or making new highs. I do have maybe I don't know if a lot is on it. I'm looking right now, but I own some calls an ETF bug, which is a similar business, maybe I think. And I think those they're almost in the money now, but I think that we could see all-time highs in that whole space as well as companies start to spend more money on it. So the ransomware thing is real, and it's all very real. So I'm not quite sure. Again, I got to look at this a lot, but I'd say it has a shot. There are reasonable calls to purchase for that time frame.
So we got some reasonable ransomware calls, according to the Rock House. So we'll come back to these ones too. You're right. I did a little bit of digging while you're talking. It does seem like they have some subsidiaries that do some network securities. That could certainly be why in the last few months they've seen some significant upside. You know what else has upside all the time? It's the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, everybody. We've delayed him long enough with talk of lots and all sorts of other nonsense. Leslie's, BJ Holmes. He's champing the bit. He wants to get at you. Mr. Uncle Mike, these are crazy times. These are tumultuous times. Dare I say it, sir. What have you in store for our beloved listeners today?
Well, there's something that I've noticed. I'm doing some math in my head here. And so we're just kind of we're on the back end of a bunch of lockdowns where husbands and wives were alone with each other or with other kids driving them nuts. And the other thing that I'm noticing on this is that I'm getting a lot of calls about clients that are having babies in the near future, or clients that are just looking for or grandparents that are new grandparents and looking to set something up for their college funding. And so I'm noticing a kind of a coincidence between the lockdown and the increased birth rates of a lot of my client base. But I'll let our listeners use their own imaginations with that one. But with that being said, I do want to address something that I am getting a pretty fair amount of questions on lately, and that is saving for college. And so I want to just talk about ways with which you can do it and some choices that you have and some ways with which you could possibly use options if it made sense to you in your overall portfolio. So first off, let's talk about the big dog of all college savings plans, and that's a 529 plan. Every state has their own 529 plan, and within there, you can put money into your 529 plan. I'm not talking about prepaid tuition. I'm talking about putting money into typically some type of a mutual fund, whether it's a stock fund, a bond fund, or a mix of both or whatever. And you put money in after tax, and the money grows and grows and grows because, as we all know, the market always goes up all the time, LOL. And if the money grows and grows, the money you take out, if it's used for educational purposes, the gains are tax-free. It's really a great deal from a tax standpoint. And quite frankly, if God were to tell me that the market were to go straight up and my kids are guaranteed to go to college and they're not going to get any scholarships, I would personally put 100% of all the college savings money for my kids into a 529 plan. However, I don't know if I think my kids will go to college, but you never know. And I don't know if the market's going to go straight up, and they may or may not get scholarships. So because of that, I think it's important to prepare for those three scenarios if something were to happen along those lines. So how do we prepare for such things? Well, of course, there's other ways with which to save for college. You can just have a custodial account in your kid's name. Disadvantage of that, there's not as many tax breaks with that. And also, if you are going to get some type of financial aid in some way, shape, or form, which that's the other thing that I've been boning up on lately is the financial aid law or rules that exist with the FAFSA form and things like that. That's the other thing that this increased birth rate has kind of gotten me to brush up on a little bit. Custodial accounts will hurt you more than a 529 plan would. So that's another disadvantage of it. There's also Coverdell accounts. They act similar to a 529 plan, but a lot of my clients make too much money to qualify for those. So with that, let's focus on the 529 plan and talk about how we can overcome those disadvantages that I brought up. Well, the first one, what if, I'll talk about my situation. What if my oldest son doesn't want to go to college or gets a full ride scholarship? Of course, my son's starting his freshman year of high school, and let me tell you guys, he's the greatest high school football player that's ever been known to man. So there's my biased dad moment for the time. But with that being said, let's say he decides not to go to college or gets a full ride scholarship. Well, with that, the 529 money that we have in his name, we can use for my daughter, his younger sister, and for that, there's no penalty in doing so. So let's say we save up all this money for my son, he gets a full ride and doesn't go to college. Well, then to overcome that risk, so to speak, we can put that money towards my daughter's education. So that's a way with which we can kind of overcome that risk or mitigate it somewhat, or that's as the option trader in me is looking at that. Now, let's say that the main risk that I'm personally concerned with all this is, what if the market goes down? I know it's kind of a scary thought for people, but it can exist. And let's say that we do have it to where the market doesn't work favorably. This is something that we've done with him, and we did this in the early years. The money in the 529 plans on my son's 14 and my daughter's 12 right now, but the money in the 529 plans was mostly stock-based. And of course, we've had a really nice run in the stock market since they've been born, which has really helped this out quite a bit. But in the early years, we had a separate account to where I was buying a bunch of puts to where if the market were to tank, then we would have that protection in place. Now, I can't really there's a lot more to it than just buy some puts. What the heck? There's a lot more to it than that. It was a very calculated risk with which we took. It was very strategic in how we set it up. But quite frankly, the market's gone up so much that we've blown out all those accounts. Now, obviously, the gains we've made in the 529 plans have far exceeded that. But I can sleep at night knowing that if the market does go down, we have that put strategy in place in a separate account. Now, at this stage, my son's getting closer to college, and the allocation is such to where there's much less market exposure. He's 4 years away, which quite frankly, that scares me, how fast he's growing up. And at this point in time, we don't have any puts in place because we're just allocating because we're kind of in the later years to where we're just kind of, I hate to say on cruise control, but we're not near as aggressive with the allocation. But the puts served us well because we were able to have that much market exposure in the early years and save up a pretty decent amount of money towards it. So I'll be talking about this on my blog today. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW. I'll be releasing it in the next couple of hours and to talk more about it and how you can have college savings options with options. There's a lot more we can unpack with this, but check out my blog. It'll be a lot more detailed.
There we go. Check it out. Uncle Mike at Mike TOSAW on the old Twitters. As we keep on rolling to our final segment, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of this week until our next episode on Thursday. We're also going to squeeze in another question from one of our pro members here, regular questioner, my boy Luigi. This is for you specifically, Mr. Rock Lobster. So I didn't want you to leave without at least seeing this. He says, when the Lobster mentioned being, quote, cheaper, I believe he's talking about at the top of the show, you're talking about volatility. He says, does he mean the difference between the call and the put is less than the difference between the strike and the stock price? Oh, I guess he listened to one of Mark's videos on YouTube about put call parity, and he wants to make sure he got it. Were you talking about synthetics and put call parity earlier that I missed, Mr. Rock Lobster? I believe he was talking about broad vol levels, correct?
I thought it was just raw vol levels, but I'm trying to think of the context. It's like my own students. Unless you tell me exactly what the idea was, it's hard for me to remember all of the variations. So, but sometimes the synthetic can be cheaper. But I'm not sure we covered that on the show.
All right, Luigi, you got a few seconds listening live if you want to hit us up with exactly what your details are. Meanwhile, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you watching until our Thursday episode, sir?
I'm watching this Creators bid for VIX. I'm watching the gold markets. Like, everything just feels a little too complacent to me right now, to be honest. Like, a little bit too much of Fed waving their wand. Biden does the G7 thing. It all just is it's a little complacent after this year of COVID, but I'm more than happy to watch the ball tank and go to zero and nothing happens. But it has a whiff of the surreal about it right now. I'll just say that much.
A whiff of the surreal. You can say that about a lot of the markets these days out there. Now, Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week until our next episode on Thursday?
I'm not really doing much with it, but I'm watching Bitcoin because it is always fascinating to see those large moves like that and what can happen with that. I'm watching the VIX. I think we're kind of at that point to where are we going to go back above 20 again, or are we going to actually go down below 15? And looking to see if it has a move, and then looking to see if we can break away from this 4,200 level on the SPX.
All right, everybody. That music means that's it for these sexy boys, at least. But don't worry. If you're listening live, stay tuned. We'll be back in exactly an hour. In the meantime, we'll pump some fun stuff in to the old live chat. If you're listening after the fact, just hit next on your device of choice because the Crypto Rundown will be there. Uncle Mike, you heard it. Even Uncle Mike, the devout S&P bull that he is pretty much spending a lot of his time watching Bitcoin out there these days. So if you're not at least paying tangential attention to what the hell's going on in these markets, they certainly are linked to Tesla, which is a big part of the S&P and everything else going forward these days. So these markets, the lines are being blurred more and more every week. So if you're not tuning into Crypto Rundown, I know a lot of you are. Stay tuned. Exactly an hour. We'll have some good stuff with the folks from Genesis Volatility, the ones who give us all this great data and break down all the analytics. They'll have some great answers about what's going on behind the scenes. Dare I say it, the flow masters of the crypto space. So stay tuned for that. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Let's start with the Unklist of Mike's. He did win our guessing game earlier today. Mr. Uncle Mike, if folks are intrigued, they want to learn more, maybe they want to talk to you about the using options in the old 529, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, I would say in addition to the 529, but yeah, go to stcharleswealth.com, check out my website. You can contact me there. Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW. More than happy to have a conversation with anyone on such a topic because I'm becoming more and more well versed in it as the birth rates of my clients are definitely increasing.
Well, there you go. Check them out at Mike TOSAW on the old Twitters, or stcharleswealth.com is the place to go. It's like Luigi, he was just talking about general put call parity there, Mr. Rock Lobster. Wasn't addressing something from today. So we'll get to this tomorrow. Maybe we'll try to squeeze it in on even tomorrow's Q&A with the once and future Dr. Vic. So stay tuned for that. You are a pro member, Luigi, so you'll be able to hear that along with the rest of our members coming up tomorrow. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks are intrigued, they want to check out what you got going on, where should they go? What should they do?
Come on over to oxford.com, go to memberships, check out my fancy vol trading club. Having a great year, even though vol's not as exciting it is, but it's doing okay. So products are doing good, and I'm running a couple things, and things are going pretty well. So I got no complaints. And if you want to get your option learner on and see how these things trade, come on over.
All right, you come on over to the land of all things vol, aka OptionPit.com. On behalf of the greasiest of meatballs and the Unklist of Mike's, and indeed myself, thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing, and listening live. If you're in the latter category, stay tuned. We'll pump some fun stuff in here. We'll be back in 56 minutes to break down the exciting world of crypto volatility. There's a little bit to talk about over there. Got a great guest to help me do just that. And we're back again tomorrow Tuesday is rapidly becoming Pro Q&A Day. Another great guest. Talk about all this madness in the world of volatility. The once and future Dr. Vix. Wednesday, we thought we were going to do 2 last week. We got them back this week to do another one. We're going to do another live options boot camp this week, so stay tuned for that. Of course, you have OPR on Wednesday as well. And then Thursday back for episode 2 of the Option Block.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.